Hi guys, it's Alice, and today I'm going to recommend 3 of the longest books that I have read that I feel like are totally worth making your way through, even though they're kind of chunky. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I usually read relatively short books, like 400 pages or shorter, because big books kind of scare me because it's such a big commitment, I feel. But every once in a while, I will read one, and sometimes it's worth it. And one that I read last year that I absolutely loved was Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I'm sure most of you know what this is, but if you don't, this is a Russian classic, and it's set in 19th century Russia, where we meet Anna Karenina, who is a married woman who has a very intense love affair. We meet a farmer named Levin who has had his heart broken, and then we meet the married Oblonskys, whose marriage is ravaged by the husband's infidelities. And this book is 963 pages long, so it's thick. So I have read War and Peace by Tolstoy, which is almost twice as long as this, I think, and that book felt so long. And I read that before I read this, so when I started this, I kind of felt like this was going to be very much the same, like one of those books that feels long but it's worth making your way through. But I actually much prefer this to War and Peace. This is surprisingly readable, and it's just such a magnificent book, and if you take your time with it, you can really get lost in it. I love the writing, and I love all the descriptions of nature and farmland, and I just think it's magnificent, and there's a reason that so many people love this book. The second book is a book by one of my favorite authors, and it is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. So The Secret History by Donna Tartt is one of my all-time favorite books, but I feel like I very often forget to mention that I love this book as well. It's 894 pages long, so again, really chunky, but it's a contemporary literary fiction novel about a young boy who miraculously survives this accident that kills his mother, and he is taken in by this really wealthy family, and we basically follow his life. I really don't want to give anything away about this book because I feel like it's one of those books that feel like a real journey, and you need to like go on the journey yourself to discover everything, if that makes sense. But I just love this book. I loved the characters, I loved the setting, and even though it's a really long book, it is extremely well written. Lastly, we've got a book that I read ages ago, but it's still one of my all-time favorites, and it is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is my favorite epic fantasy novel ever, and yes, it does beat Game of Thrones. It's 662 pages long, and it's set in a magical world, and we follow this young boy who becomes this notorious wizard, and we get to read about his whole history. And I can't really explain much more than that without getting really deep into detail, and that will be here all day. But I just love the world in this book. I love the magic system, and it's one of those books that you really feel like you can get totally lost in. You can really see that this is one of the oldest books on my shelves because the pages have gotten really yellow, and I even broke the spine on this one, guys. And I just love this book so much. It's the first book in a trilogy. The second book is called The Wise Man's Fear, and I've been waiting for the third book for like 10 years, which I've mentioned before. It's like one of the books that if I could choose any book to be released, it would be the third book in the series. Like, honestly, Patrick, it's just, I know you probably have your process, but like, it's killing me. I'm dying. Help a girl out. Okay guys, those were all the books that I had to recommend for you today. I'd love to know what your favorite long book is, and maybe what's the longest book you've ever read, and do you prefer longer books or short ones? I think that's really interesting, and I will see you soon. Bye!